So let's go back to the opaque nature of English for a little bit here. So opaqueness means the lack of clarity or sometimes confusing nature of letter sound correspondence is based upon the multiple representations. And there definitely are a lot of multiple representations, but this is contrasted from a language like Italian or Spanish that's considered transparent, where there's a very predictable, reliable correspondence between a letter and a sound, and it's usually a one-to-one correspondence. Spanish and Italian are very good about that. Italian, once you know how to speak Italian, you learn the letter sound correspondences, you can learn how to read Italian like super quick. So the English orthography's opaqueness is often exaggerated, though, and it's not as opaque as George Bernard Shaw would lead you to believe with GHOTI spelling fish. Those are outliers. It's hyperbole. It's exaggeration. As Lisa Cook-Moats, Dr. Lisa Cook-Moats tells us, surprisingly, approximately only 4% of English words in print defy explanation and are truly irregular. And again, non-decodable, irregular. There's lots of terms that get thrown around here. Truly irregular, meaning non-decodable, period. Can't use clues to figure those out. Approximately 50% of all English words can be spelled accurately by sound symbol correspondence patterns alone. So 50 are easy. One-to-one, we get it between this is one way of representing a sound and this is how we do it. 36% I should say, can be spelled accurately except for one speech sound, which is a vowel usually, and which is usually, again, our schwa sound, which all has to do with accents and syllables. We're getting into multisyllabic words then at that point. So 4% of an orthography that's non-decodable at all is a pretty minuscule amount. Let's put this into perspective here for a second. There's about 300,000 words in an unabridged dictionary that you might find in your office, not even being compared to the thing that's on your phone because these have so much more words inside of them. The second edition of the Oxford English Dictionary, in fact, which is the current edition originally published in 1989, contains approximately 600,000 words. Now, as I talk about this device here that stores so many more words on it, during a project at Words in Digitized Books, researchers from Harvard University and Google in 2010 estimated a total of 1,022,000 words, and that number would grow by several thousand each year. We're constantly adding new words into those. And so let's just take a little side step here, is people say, well, English is so difficult to read because it loves to take on other languages. And yeah, it does love to borrow from other languages, but most of the non-decodable words that we can't figure out are actually from our Middle English. These archaic actual English words are the most difficult ones those type of things. So again, 600,000 words inside of the second edition of the Oxford English Dictionary. Google and Harvard found 1,022,000 words in their study. Now, bow or bow, as we said a little bit earlier here, is a heteronym, meaning that the word has a single spelling, but it has multiple pronunciations and meanings. Heteronyms are all the homographs that are not homophones. Think about that for a second. Homograph, same letters that are not homophones. They do not make the same sounds. So we can't find a definitive figure on the number of heteronyms that are in the English language, but there is a definitive number of homonyms in the English language. And linguistically, heteronyms are a subset of homonyms, since homonyms means two or more words having the same spelling or pronunciation with different meanings. So again, heteronyms fall within this circle of homonyms. And homonyms also include homographs and homophones. So the set of homonyms is therefore, in math terms, larger than the set of heteronyms. But since we don't have a point of reference for heteronyms and the number of them in the English language, we'll have to just go with a bigger number of homonyms. So Rogers Reference, the working dictionary of homonyms described at rogersreference.com, claimed to have documented 6,139 homonyms in the English language, but it's important to bear in mind that perceptions of similarity between words are essentially subjective and will often differ from person to person. So let's give homonyms the benefit of the doubt, and we'll go with the stated high end of 6,139 homonyms. Okay, got it, we'll concede that. And only the words contained in the second edition of the Oxford Dictionary, which is 600,000. 6,139 out of 600,000 words are words that fall into this bow versus bow context, that this argument like we can't learn how to read because of without the use of the cue systems because the context is needed to figure out these words. So a super lenient amount when we compare 6,139 of 600,000 is an estimate of about 1.02% of words that fit this argument that's trying to be made. So the more fitting percentage is actually about 0.66% of words fitting that pattern when we compare the Google and Harvard study compared to this very lenient 6,139 homonyms. And I'd be willing to bet that that number, I can guarantee that number is smaller than 0.66%. But again, for the leniency's sake, the figures are close enough. 0.66 to 1.02% fit this argument of heteronyms. So anyways, to put this in perspective, 1 in 50 kids have a peanut allergy, so that's about 2%. And we have 1 in 200 adults have a peanut allergy, which is about 0.5%. So it could be said along these lines in the same manner that English is too irregular in its heteronyms of these words that are spelled the same but pronounced differently and have different meanings, that to say that we can't do our explicit systematic instruction and letter sound instruction, or that we have to use 3 cueing system based upon this case here, is like saying that humans are intolerant to peanuts and that no one should be allowed to have peanuts because of this 0.5% to 2% of peanut allergies, as compared to the 0.66% or 1.02% of heteronyms that fall into this case study, this case example of what's being presented here. So when we put in that terms, it doesn't make sense. Or if we look at instead individuals that have diabetes and we compare that to the percentage of words that are non-decodable, it's 4.3% of adults in the age of 18 to 44 between the times of 2013 to 2016 were diagnosed as having diabetes. To say that we must do the 3 cueing system, or we can't do a phonics-based approach or a letter sound-driven approach to teaching reading, is like saying, based upon that small 4% of words that are non-decodable, is like saying based upon our 4% of people that are between 18 and 44 that have diabetes, that everybody should be pricking their finger and checking their sugar, checking to make sure, just based upon that small number. We don't ask everyone, the other 96% of the population, to constantly be checking their blood sugar. In the same way that we shouldn't be throwing out and saying we must use 3 cueing systems based upon these incredibly small anomalies. This is exaggeration, it's hyperbole. And instead, what we need to be doing to identify these cases is find where the cases are and provide them with special treatment. We take special care to introduce these words very intentionally. We intentionally map these words. We start with the phonological representation of those words. We break out the sounds, so we have the phonemes that are broken out. We represent those phonemes through the print. We show them what it's going to be. Even though it's of, O, F, which should be U, V, we can map those back into what they're going to do. It doesn't take any kind of context for those. So we can't throw out the whole system or adhere to a system that leads to kids not mapping words just based upon 4% or 0.66% to 1.2%. Instead, what we got to do is we got to look at the special treatment of these cases, find what these cases are, provide special treatment to the kids to learn these words, to provide word study towards these. And that's where the teacher really comes in powerful, is to be able to provide the explicit instruction of how to map these words for automatic recall and to use context to limit those activated words down to the correct word that's going to fit inside of that context that you're so desiring. And so whether it's peanuts, diabetes, homonyms, irregular non-decodables, treat the special cases with care and attention that they deserve. Because in the end, if you're using phonics as the part that we should throw out, or if you're using the heteronyms or the non-decodable words in English, in the end, that's not good instruction. That's just a straw man.